You really haven't formulated your business model. You have no idea how to attract a customer, buy his book and give it to each of my franchisees. And in there, he said, no one wants.
So let's start with your early career. How did you start your journey, and when did you become a founder or an entrepreneur?
I got offered a partnership to open a retail store, men's store, clothing store, with the
Mhm.
biggest personality actor, highest paid actor in Hollywood at the time, and several other actors. They put up the money, I put up the talent, and we opened a pilot store to franchise, and that started the career. From the store, I joined the wholesale side, so joined in with an apparel company, and I spent the next 20 years working my way up the corporate ladder, which gave me great skills in many different areas, and finally decided it was time that my wife and I did something together, since I was gone so much of the time traveling the United States. So I retired in my early 30s from my
Ah,
career, and we started a small store we could be together, and our kids did their homework in the back of the store, and it was idyllic. But I'm sort of a type A personality, and that one store became 124 stores nationwide, and those skills I learned in the early years paid dividends. And so came to 2008, I believe it was, and
mhm.
I had hired a team of students from Cal State University at Fullerton to do a project for me. So in franchise, and I had those 124 stores I had franchised. So
Okay.
it's so important to maintain brand recognition and brand reputation. And so you lock down the print and radio and TV. But this new thing came up back then. It was called social media. You might have heard of it before. And, I was 60 years old at the time, and who's better to understand social media, a 60-year-old or a 20-year-old? So I hired a team of students to help me create my format for my company and my franchisees, and that put me on campus. I was asked to come back the next semester and act as a mentor in
Mhm.
class, an entrepreneur in residence. It was phenomenal. It's a part of me that I guess was latent. I thought I was a mentor and a coach, building a franchise company, teaching people who had never been in business how to be in business,
Mhm.
writing the SOPs and so forth. But being with these young people energized me. So after 3.5 years of mentoring in class, I decided that's what I wanted to do every day instead of Thursday night. And so
Mhm.
I told my wife, I think it's time we sell the company, which I did, and immediately converted the corporate office that I bought in 2000 into an incubator, 4,000 square feet. And that was the
Oh.
birth of FastStart Studio, of
Mhm.
which we had more than 100 startups through. And it was one of the joys of my life. And that started my public face of entrepreneurship. And that's where the giving and the community
Mhm.
part of my personality came out, and I found a great fit. I was type A personality, running my company for 27 years, you know, doing what I had to do to run the company. That was much of being a taker, taking of resources, taking what was there. Once I sold the company and created Fast Start, I became a giver. It
Mhm.
was sort of the yin and yang I took for a big part of my life, and hopefully a big part of my life I can give back.
You have a lot of experience. So looking back, Do you see any recurring traits in that era that you can compare with
I,
today's
I'm
startup?
I'm laughing because for quite a while I became really focused on that, almost manic, and so I had this challenge that I gave myself to find that entrepreneurial DNA switch so that I could do a better job in helping turn it on in individuals. So I took 10 of the most brightest entrepreneurs, founders in FastStart, and I ran them through a battery of different psychological tests, Meyer-Briggs, DISC, so many of
Mhm.
the other. And then with the help of a professional HR person who was one of the mentors that we used, and brilliant at it, we parsed all that information. And after, hundreds, if not thousands of data points, we found there
Mhm.
isn't anything that is, there's many shared traits, but there's not one trait that was prevalent in all of them. So that became a big deal. And so I didn't give up. I didn't do it in a testing sort of a lab way, but I
Mhm.
dealt with it more in a human way and in more interactions, more conversations of what drives these folks. And there is no such thing in my book. Yes, it's easy to spot an entrepreneur because they have quite a few, but the one metric that matters, the one that everything turns on, I haven't found it. I would love to love to learn it, so that I could be more of a Pied Piper and get more people involved. But that, maybe it's a Harry Potter wand or something. I don't know what helps that, but I'm still in the hunt for that elusive DNA gene.
Mhm. What are your thoughts? Obviously, you have been talking and meeting and mentoring so many founders. What are your thoughts of the core founder traits? Is it grit,
Yeah.
adaptability, willingness to pivot,
So
clarity
as you
of
know,
the problem?
it's a lot of things, and for me, yes, um, clarity of thought, clarity of purpose, being able to share your vision. All those things are important. But one of the biggest things that I find that is present in most successful founders is resiliency and the ability to react to change.
Mhm.
Most people run the other way when it comes to change. We get comfortable in the things we do. Well, the truth is that no matter what it is, that burning idea that you want to build as a founder, that vision that you believe you have something that's going to change the world, probably will never see the light of day. Or if you are successful, it'll be something else. It'll be an iteration of that, or it'll be something totally different. I mean, when
Mhm.
you take a look at, there's so many stories out there. Two guys were working on their startup, and they each worked for a different company, and they knew the law that if they worked on their startup on company time, it actually belonged to the company. And even if
Mhm.
they were at home at night working on a laptop, that were or any resource that was supplied by the employer, no matter what they were building, it was the property of the employer. That's law. So
Yeah.
they in order to for them to communicate privately and where it could not be seen or uh, uh, intercepted by anyone, they built this communication platform while they were
Mhm.
building their startup. But that communication platform was so successful, it was bought by Microsoft and became Hotmail. They
Mhm.
never started to create Hotmail, and I mean, if we have a moment here, I've got another telling tale, if I may.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look at we go in the Wayback Machine. We go to Chicago in a industrial flat, 3 characters standing there around a box of a pile of boxes full of files. 2 guys are partners. Well, they're all 3 partners, but 2 of them are married. The startup has failed after raising $23 million and hiring over 20 engineers and having a quite successful launch and the beginning of a great scale. And they had run out of money. And the 2 that were married said, "We've taken jobs. What are you going to do?" And the remaining character, Duncan, says, "I'm not giving up. I'm not married. I'm going to stick it out." And they say, "Well, we paid the rent to the end of the month. Here's the keys. Good luck." And they leave. So he starts delving into the files, which are all the customer files, trying to find what it was that brought people to their startup in the first place. The startup was called The Point. It was before Meetup. So it was about people with shared interests coming together. And The Point had done quite well, and then membership and attendance started falling off, and therefore the revenue fell off. So he started going back, trying to find what he ran everything through his computer, could not find anything. Time was running out on the lease. He's frantic. So he went old school, picked up the telephone, started calling customers.
Right.
And saying, "Thank you for being a customer of The Point. You know, I see you've gone to, 4 of our meets, and tell me about it." And they would say, "Yeah, it's pretty good. I like meeting with people who like baseball or raise chinchillas or whatever. Well, why aren't you continuing?" And he wasn't getting the answer. And again, panic sets in, fear makes you do a lot of things. So I started asking more direct questions, peeling back the onion. And he found that people were saying, "Well, I liked doing that, but when you set up these meets, you do it in a pub or a pizza place, and you'd get us a discount on the pizza and beer. And really, that's why I was going." So he heard that enough that he decided to chase that, and he started a thing called Groupon. You may have heard of that.
Yes.
Became global, and it came out of just asking the questions, finding a need, filling that need like it hadn't ever been done before. So again, that's a great story, I believe, and it shows about resiliency. That's grit, that's intelligence, but it's also the ability to make a change.
Yeah, so true. Let's talk about the mentorship gap. And I feel between the success of an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur and a startup founder and their business, mentorship and advisorship plays a big role. And I always call it a missing link that if you're donating your time, if you're working so hard, if you have put in your hard-earned dollars to it, you should go and get a mentor first before trying something on your own like that. How do you see that? Is there a mentorship gap, or it is just advice dumping in today's world when everything is available on YouTube?
Yeah, there's a lot of different paths. There is no one path. Depends on situation, and as Bill Gross would say, timing. In that he says timing is more important than funding, technology, team, anything else in being successful. So I mean, it's a multiplicity, and there's no one way. There's sort of classic ways, but it doesn't matter. It's about taking the first step and then the second, and dragging yourself forward. Sometimes running, sometimes crawling. But yeah, there's a whole plethora of ways of getting going.
Mhm. And in today's world, I see many of the founders, they can differentiate between an advisory role and a mentorship role. And they get confused, they keep using word interchangeably. What is your thought on that? Who should go for an advisor, and what is mentorship in the frame of a startup founder ecosystem?
Okay, I'm not quite sure I got all of that. Are we talking about
The advisory role and the mentorship.
can you say that one more time for me?
Advisory role and mentorship, are they the same or they are different? Who is a mentor? Who is an advisor?
Ah, so mentor to me, a mentor is sort of all inclusive, right? There's the emotional part of it, there's the business part of it, the technical part of it, and it has to do with well-being as well. Advisors tend to be monolithic in a silo, usually technology forward, and so may have many advisors, but one mentor, someone that can act as a role model and to be there uh, for so many purposes.
Let's talk about think lean, teaching founders to think lean. You have been an educator in lean startups. What misconceptions do you see most often among the early founders about thinking lean?
There's so many misconceptions. One of the biggest, I guess, is what an MVP is. And so many believe that an MVP is their product, and it's not. It's something very different. So to learn what an MVP is and how to build it, learn from it, and so forth is one of the big issues in my book. So you know. That's one of the biggest ones.
And how do you coach founders to strike a balance between planning and action?
Yeah. Well, everything's got a cycle. There's a spectrum to everything, and a yin and a yang to everything. And like you said, it's about balance. So there's time. And if I could tie this back to your last question, so often the idea presents itself and they want to start building right away. And that's exactly the wrong thing to do, because in most cases they're building the wrong thing or building something that no one wants. The hard part, and I really mean hard part, and extremely difficult for some people is to do the research to find out what to build and how to build it and what the market wants versus what you and your team want, and to do the research. And the long interview, when done correctly, is a game changer. It is absolutely the most important thing you can do. So often, and I've seen it in teams I've managed, I've read about it, I've been immersed in it myself, that once you get out there and start asking the right questions, not would you use my product or would you buy my product, or what do you think of what I'm building? It's totally the wrong question. It should be not what would you do, but what did you do? When you had this, first of all, did you ever have this problem? Okay, that's sorry to hear that, but how did you overcome it? What did you use to overcome it? And they'll tell you, and you say, well, why did you choose that? What else was available? And you keep asking these questions. And the reason why is that people will lie. That's kind of a harsh word, but people want to help. They want to tell you what they think you want to know, and that's wrong for you. as a founder, you want to get to true. You want the true data. So you have to keep peeling back the onion. And the psychologists tell us if you ask the same kind of question 5 times, why this, that the average person cannot lie 5 times in a row on the same thing, and they finally regurgitate the truth. You want to find out what that pain point truly was, and it tells you what the competition may be, direct and indirect. And then you can do things like, well, I'm glad that worked for you and that you got your solution, but tell me, in a scale of 1 to 10, of it didn't work at all, or you were dissatisfied, or it worked 100% and you got what you needed, can you tell me where that solution for you was? And they'll go, oh, well, yeah, I got what I needed, but I didn't get all that I needed. And I'd say, well, can you tell me in a 1 to 10 what it would be? Oh, well, I got about a 7. And that 7's good. And I say, yeah, 7's good. But tell me, what would it take to go from a 7 to 10? What was missing? What did you need? And this is uncovering the rest of the pain point, and maybe an opportunity to create a great solution, maybe even in a crowded market where they're not presenting 100% of the solution, and there's an opening there. But it all comes from doing the long interviews and research, what very, very few really want to do.
Michael, I've also seen in founders the common traps: overbuilding the MVP, lack of customer validation, scaling without product market fit. What is your take on all these, and what to do or how to help the founders that they don't get into this circle of chaos?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of quotes out there. Reid Hoffman, if you're not disappointed, or the word ashamed, if you're not ashamed of your MVP, you waited too long and overbuilt it. So low fidelity works really well. And what I mean is, you could, instead of building, a mobile app, wireframe it, or a web page, wireframe it so you can show people. It doesn't do anything, but they get the idea, and watch where they push. I've seen it using a big notepad where people have drawn the keyboard and said, okay, in order to do the next thing, what would you push? And they're pushing a button that's drawn on a piece of paper, but you see the activity and where the path is and whether they'll be involved at all. Things of that nature. Maybe an example would be, I had 2 guys came to me, and they were buddies. They worked for different companies, but they both liked to fish. So they're out by Catalina fishing, and it was hot. And one guy says to the other guy, hey, you want a beer? And the guy says, yeah. So he opens up the cooler and he hands him a Corona. And the guy says, thanks. Do you have any lime? And the guy that owns the boat and gave him the beer said, oh, I forgot the lime, man. I'm so sorry. And that started a conversation that you shouldn't ever have to apologize for not having a lime when you give somebody a Corona. So they put their heads together and came up, and they used 3D printing to create a very small little bladder that would fit in a bottle, could be sealed with the cap, could have lime juice in it. So you pop open the beer, you take the little bladder, you squeeze in as much lime as you want. And they wanted to build this, and they came to me, to my incubator, and they showed me this thing, and my mind expands and goes, hey, that could be vitamins, that could be electrolytes, that could be sugar. So if you want how sweet you want your soda, whatever, it could be almost anything, a new delivery system. This is amazing. And they went, well, how do we do this? We don't have, $100,000 to go into production, I said, well, you need to make sure that this isn't just something that you two and I think it's great. We need to test it. And they go, well, how do we test it? We can't do this. So I told them to find a place where there would be a lot of people and hopefully a lot of their potential customers. So they chose the Orange County Fairgrounds for a small meet on a weekend. And they took a 6-pack of Corona and they blocked out the label. So it was agnostic. They couldn't tell what it was. And the key was I asked them to create a banner over their booth that said free beer, knowing the words free beer are going to bring a lot of public forward. And then on a tablet, we created 10 questions to ask people that signed up. And we did, and we showed them, right, which would you choose? Here's a Corona with no, well, here's a beer with no lime. Here's a beer with a lime of unknown origin. And here's our offering, and which would you pick? Those kinds of things. And their supposition was that their primary customer there would be a male Hispanic, and one of the founders was a male Hispanic, and he said everybody I know would do this. But when the data was all collected, the primary became a female beer drinker who didn't like anything stuck in her, a dirty finger, a dirty lime, whatever. It was not her thing. And she may want to, not drink it straight from the bottle. And she wanted to put it in a glass and add whatever. But their primary target customer became a secondary or tertiary, and the primary became someone they never even thought was a woman. And at the same time, it's when the beer industry was trying to grow their female base, and it was perfect timing for this thing. Unfortunately, the two founders got into a fight, and that ended that, which we see very often. But I thought that was a great example of how to build a low-fidelity MVP to get in front of people to collect data.
Right. Such a great example. And I wish the founder didn't fight, and then this product could have seen the light of the day. But it happens.
All the time. 68% of the time, failed startups are because of founder discord.
68%.
68%, and I teach it, and I preach it, and I've done so many mediations between founders that are fighting, all the time. So I got to be pretty good at it. And then guess what? It happened to one of the startups that I was a co-founder, and the team, I couldn't bring them back from the edge, and it broke up. Right, and we had $1 million commitment from the co-fund, but couldn't get my partners to put down the weapons and talk it out. So it happens to everybody.
So now put on your investor lens, and I would like to talk to you about what mentors can see that the founders miss. So having seen hundreds of startups as an investor and mentor, what are the biggest blind spots that you see that the founders will have?
One of the things I see that isn't talked about too often, and when it's talked about, it doesn't sink in. And that is founders are so focused on the capital because they're seeing their dream die without an infusion of capital. So that's what they're focused on. But money's everywhere, and money isn't it. That what you're trying to do is to bring on an extraordinary resource that comes with the money, and that's one of the biggest and best parts of angel investment, because angel investors typically are involved with something they have an affinity for, or a knowledge base of, or something that they're excited about, and can open up their contact list and bring other resources in and give knowledge. So it's about bringing on knowledge as well as capital. We all need capital. There's ways of getting around capital, can be very creative that way, but to surround yourself with the right knowledge. And the other thing is an extension of that, and that whoever you take money from, most likely you're going to be involved with for a long time. And we know that, especially in VC and private equity exits, it's in successful founding and startups, it's 8 to 10 years. So you're going to be shoulder to shoulder with somebody for 8 to 10 years. You better be sure that you can live with them for that time. That's longer than the average marriage, which is 7 years, right? So, but the same kind of energy and thought is not put into who you're taking money from, like you would who are you going to marry, right? So it's like you don't go into a grocery store or a gym and you see somebody and you're ready. You say, that's the person for me, and you run up and you go, you're tremendous, you're gorgeous, blah, 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 and would you marry me? Right? You would never do that. So why would you take money from someone that you haven't not just vetted, but become comfortable with? And on the other side of that, I learned from a very smart, very successful Orange County entrepreneur, Andre Berengian, and he invests in a handful of founders every year, and they explode because of his knowledge and his contacts. But what he does when he gets the final 8 or 10, maybe for that quarter or half a year that he's working with, he'll invite them, all of them. They usually don't know each other, to a lunch or a dinner. And it isn't to talk about business. It's just to be together, right? But what he does is he watches to see who can communicate with others and how they communicate. Are they introverted? Do they have salad hanging out of their mouth and don't have a skill set? But it's very important to him because he knows he's going to be working with these guys for a while. And he wants to see how they handle themselves in a non-technical environment before he decides whether he wants to work with them or not. That needs to be done very much in reverse, when founders need to learn to vet and to be very careful who they take money from.
Great. How do you evaluate a founder, Michael, beyond the pitch deck and matrices? So you spoke about one example right now where getting all the founders and seeing how they interact with each other, not in a business world, but just socially. And that gives some cue. What are your pointers that you have learned with so much of vast experience that you bring to the table, Michael?
Yeah. So it's sort of, part of that is sort of happening, or has happened right away. In January, I joined a team that's revolutionizing the real estate industry. And I've been in real estate as my portfolio for 50 years now. And they know that I teach and I preach startups. So anyhow, they had an issue. I worked with them, and then they offered me a position with the company. And the first thing they wanted to do is help us build this deck. And I'm going, no, you don't even know what goes in that deck. You really haven't formulated your business model. You have no idea how to attract a customer and what your CAC is going to be, what is it going to cost, and lifetime value. There's so many unanswered. It's not just a deck. Oh, we need a deck because, the word's out. People are coming to us, investors, and they want to see our deck. And I'm saying, don't show them anything yet until you know what you're talking about. Oh, but the tech is working. Our betas are great. No, you're not ready for prime time. And maybe the bigger question is, should you be taking money at this time or should you be bootstrapping? Mm-hmm. Now, my version, my take on it is before you ever build a deck. And I did have one startup that I was involved with. And I did build the deck, but I never showed it. And I raised $1.3 million. First raise, because it was telling the story and being authentic and being real. So, everybody, not everybody, but most general misunderstanding is what a deck's for, right? Deck is not to raise money. No investor looks at a deck and then writes a check. We know that. That's the truth. The deck is to get a sit down, to get a face-to-face so you can tell your story. And so that investor can see who you are and how you go about your business and how authentic you are. And will you be a good fit for them? But the deck doesn't raise money on its own. It's just a tool to get a meeting. So before that, I'm a huge proponent on one sheets, one page that has everything on it in clarity and 1 or 2 sentences in each category. This is what we do. This is the problem we solve. This is how many people have that problem. This is the competition we face. This is the team we put together that's uniquely aware, have the skill sets to do this. And those are the things, one page that can be easily scanned by someone and by an investor in 30 seconds to say, this isn't for me, or, hey, tell me more. Yeah. So to me, that's much more important than these elaborate decks. So I'm a proponent of a 30-second pitch. All right. And everybody that I say that to goes, I can't tell you. 30 seconds, that's the blink of an eye. And I go, yeah, it shows how focused you are. And if you don't clearly understand what you're doing, how can you get anybody else to understand it? And so it's clarity of thought. And so often, whether it's feature creep or just not knowing what to do, founders build too much. And they miss the focus on the key metric and the key metric that matters. So 30 seconds forces you to get down to what's the real deal is. Every word counts, and you should look at it that way. Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens used to say, one of the most prolific writers in American history, used to say, if you need a chapter, I'll have it for you tomorrow. If you need a sentence, I'll need a month, or something like that. Yeah. And it takes much more effort to distill, to be focused, to deliver something that has clarity and meaning versus word salads.
What one principle that stood the test of time for you when you are selecting a founder to invest in them as a mentor or as your dollars?
That starts, I guess, with being authentic, right? It's truly opening up the kimono and showing who you really are, whether you're an investor or a founder. It's not hiding behind all the terms and positioning and poising. This is important to people's lives, their resources. I know so many founders that sold their house to fund couch surfing in friends' houses because they've used all their resources, but they won't give up. That's
Yeah.
commitment. And so to make decisions on something that's not real or not valid is bad mojo. So
Mm-hmm.
being authentic, whether at whatever level you are, be real, tell the truth, be a straight talker. If what you're planning to doing or what you are doing can bring value, then the customer, whether that's an investor or a user, will see that and come to your door. I follow
Mm-hmm.
a sales guy. His name's Jeffrey Gitomer, and
Mm-hmm.
he's got something that has resonated with me for the last 20 years. In fact, I would buy his book and give it to each of my franchisees. And in there, he said, no one wants to be sold. All right. And being that
Yeah.
an ancient part of our brain in the limbic system, that's the fight or flight instinct. And we know right away when somebody's trying to sell us something,
Mm-hmm.
whether they have a smile on their face or not, because that authenticity is either there or not there. So he says, no one wants to be sold, yet everyone wants to buy. When there's something that you want to buy, the obstacles will mean nothing. If it's a purse or Jimmy Choo shoes, she'll
Mm-hmm.
go without lunches for months to save up the money. If it's golf clubs, a car, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you'll make sacrifices to get it. Nothing can stop you from getting it. So, but both things are a transaction. No one wants to be sold. Selling's a transaction. Everyone wants to buy a transaction. So if it's a transaction, what's the difference between no one wants it and then you can't stop me from getting it? And that's
Mm-hmm.
positioning, and that's how selling or onboarding, finding like-minded customers needs to be. But first you got to find out what it is that people want and then build it the way that they want it, put it in front of them. And once they see it, they'll go under, around, or over obstacles to attain it. But don't show them something or try to build something that it's so that's nice. No, it's got to be something that strikes to the core of whatever their needs or problem is, and it comes
Mm-hmm.
from being authentic.